This is Orlando Sentinel Now.
Hello, it's Wednesday, January 5th. Rich Pope here with Leslie Postal and Caroline Catherman, and today we're going to be talking about COVID-19 here in the region, particularly as schools go back into session after winter break, and also we're going to find out about recommendations for testing and what's being proposed. We're going to start here with Caroline Catherman, and we're going to talk about Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo. He's making some recommendations on who he thinks should be tested.
We're trying to focus on high-value testing. Right? Testing that is likely to change clinical outcomes. Testing that's actually likely to make a difference for health. The mandates to test kids in school, I have not seen one study that has shown that that has helped any child or anyone else in this country.
Carolyn, what's happening there?
Surgeon General Ladapo has been discussing basically what he views as a distinction between high-value testing and low-value testing. So he's really viewing the value of testing as its ability to diagnose something before treatment. So for older people or people at higher risk for severe COVID-19, a positive COVID diagnosis sooner could mean they get monoclonal antibodies sooner or treatment sooner. Whereas his argument is that children, people who are asymptomatic, he thinks those are low-value COVID tests because they don't really guide the individuals. They're not going to need treatment, so it's not as necessary for clinical outcomes.
Let's talk about the contradictions there. CDC recommendations, as you were noting, completely different, and the thoughts behind that.
Yeah, so that is what many critics are emphasizing, is this mindset of high value and low value tests is just looking at the value the tests have for the individual, whereas testing in pandemics, for decades, for viruses like HIV and other SARS outbreaks, it is also incredibly valuable in reducing community spread. So even if someone is not at risk from COVID-19 themselves, if they get a positive test, they can isolate, which will prevent them from mingling with other people that are potentially high risk and will get those severe outcomes.
Yeah, let's talk about that monoclonal antibodies treatment. And there's some evidence that it's not working as well as they had hoped against this Omicron variant.
Yes, so there's about 3 main monoclonal antibody treatments that have emergency use authorization from the FDA. 2 of them are not really holding up against Omicron. One of them is holding up against Omicron a little bit better, but that is in short supply nationwide. As you can imagine, everyone's sort of scrambling for it. So that's another part of, some public health experts' arguments against this high value, low value priority is that given that monoclonal antibodies pretty much our only, treatment isn't working as well, it might actually be more valuable to prevent vulnerable people from getting exposed rather than treating them once they are.
Let's stay there with the vulnerable population. The thinking with this change in recommendations here in the state would actually make the test more available for them.
Yeah, definitely. So this seems to have been motivated in part by this huge crunch to get tests right now. And it's, there are throughout Central Florida lines that start at 6 a.m. for people to just get a chance at a COVID test. This is getting, to unprecedented demand for tests. That is because Omicron has just spread so rapidly. It's affecting more people than have ever been affected, and test production and our supply of tests can't really keep up. So this is one potential solution. However, there are other solutions. There are people that are advocating for example, if one child got COVID tested and stayed home from school, that might save, 20 other kids from ending up getting COVID tested. Because they were exposed to a child that later developed symptoms. So it's, this is in flux. There's a lot of discussions about how to resolve this.
Yeah, one of the ideas being floated is multiple tests, one device. It looked like one doctor in the U.S. is doing that right now. What does that entail?
Yeah, so that's just one of the ideas that has sort of been piloted at a school in Washington, D.C., is this idea that you could do, your cotton swab and it could actually be put into, a test vial, and we have like 10 people putting all their cotton swabs in a test file. So that will tell you if at least one person in the group of 10 people is positive. So let's say you have 100 people, you're just doing 10 tests and then doing follow-up tests in a group of individuals if one of the little clusters was positive. So that's a potential way to save testing without foregoing, say, weekly testing for school children.
All right. Well, you can read about the story right now on OrlandoSentinel.com. Of course, more updates on that. Seems to be changing day to day. Appreciate that. Okay, moving forward here to Leslie Postal, and we're going to talk about COVID-19 in the schools as schools have gone back into session after the winter break. And of course, Omicron on the top of everyone's mind right now. Leslie, how's it going?
Well, we saw yesterday, Orange County Public Schools posted the numbers. It was kind of a 2-week catch-up figure, but it was a record-breaking number of cases. And then I checked again this morning, not quite as many, but 756, still way above what had been the previous record of 491 daily cases. So yes, obviously, as there is in the community among school kids in Orange County Public Schools, there are also, quite a few cases.
Yeah, how are schools going about, say, keeping this number down? It seems like right now it's almost you can. It's just students are going to get it.
Yeah, in Orange, they have mandated that all adults, so that's teachers, staff, and any parent or, somebody doing business on campus has to wear a mask. And they have strongly encouraged students to. Of course, the state law prevents them from mandating masks for students. Other districts are doing slightly different things, but Seminole also which goes back today, also did put out a message asking all staff and students to at least consider wearing masks. So I think they're encouraging that, but they can't mandate masks for students.
Right. It seems like one move is also just telling students if you don't feel well, stay home. And you got to wonder what parents think about repercussions on that.
Yes, that has definitely been the message from most of the districts. If your child is sick, please keep them home. There's certainly been some parents who have said, I just want to keep my kid home because I don't want them in school. Of course, there's not the same options for online learning as there was a year ago. So in Orange, the superintendent has said, we don't advise it, but if you keep your child home, as long as they can keep up with assignments, which should be posted online, we'll excuse those absences. But, that child is not getting live online lessons from their teacher. They would just be, pulling something that was posted online and doing it at home. So that would not be an ideal academic situation for most kids, but some parents may be doing that.
Yeah, I'm curious, how do parents find out like how spread is in the schools that their students go to? Is there somewhere that people can check in on this?
Well, all the districts have dashboards. Orange and Lake seem to be the only ones that have them active right now. Seminoles might be updated today. I'm not positive. Osceola won't update theirs until next week, they said. So they are keeping track, but since the state isn't doing all the tracing it did before, I'm not sure they're quite as accurate as they were, but the schools are trying to gather that information through their local health departments, and they do post it online. So you could, in all our districts, go online and try to see how many cases are at your child's school.
Yeah, let's head back to Orange County and their numbers. You mentioned that was through the winter break. Some districts here did not do that. How does that change and affect the numbers? I assume they're going to be waiting for those numbers to come in shortly.
Right. I think the other districts are going to just start posting what's been recorded this week. So they're not going to worry about what was recorded over break. Orange did kind of a catch-up thing. But like I said, today's number was still really high, and today's number was just a 1 day, just, the cases that came in yesterday. So we're still seeing quite a few cases, which again fits with what we're seeing in the community.
All right, you can go to OrlandoSentinel.com right now and keep an eye on updates on that one. Of course, as I mentioned before, these seem to be happening day to day. Appreciate that. All right, well, that's all our topics for today. Appreciate you being with us. Also want to point out, go to OrlandoSentinel.com/subscribe. Support our work. We always do appreciate that. But for us, we're going to go ahead and call it quits. Until next time, I'm Rich, Leslie, and Caroline. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Watch Orlando Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on OrlandoSentinel.com.